empty town. I'm searching for the lost and found. But you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air, like a blazing flare. Don't stare, cause the flames will burn us. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. My darling dear, you're never here. When I'm in pain, you hide and disappear. Like shadows in the atmosphere, charting the stratosphere. Yeah. I prayed for you and kept you near, in hopes you'd chase away my fears. I'm on my own, you made it so, and now I'm chasing nightmares through. I used to run with you through the great big leaves, laugh at you when you laugh at me. Hope for us because I believe the home was just you and me. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, I'm gonna do this on my own. No point in blaming you, you did not know. Oh, I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, I'm gonna do this on my own. No point in blaming you, you did not know. Oh, I'm gonna do this on my own. No point in blaming you, you did not know. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me.
Yo. What is up? Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's everybody doing tonight? Just give a couple seconds here. The chat tonight is going to be on a 10-second delay. I've figured out how to do that. And then also another thing I figured out is that I can now gift memberships. So I can do 5 at a time. So when there's 5 people in the chat, I'm going to gift out 5 memberships to the channel, give you some other perks, and you can see what those people actually get. Yeah. So I think, can somebody, anybody, let me know in the chat with a thumbs up If you can hear me, I'm not talking to myself, and I'm actually live. I'd greatly appreciate it. Still crickets. If you're on your phone, guys, click the chat. Click the chat and get in. Let me see. It looks like I'm live. What's up, Chris? Can you hear me, bud? Can you hear me, Chris? Let me see. All right, I see it on my phone. You guys are just being silly and not letting me know. Chris, how we doing, buddy? And everybody else is joining. I know that Jacob definitely wants a channel membership. I'll tell him to get in here so he can get a channel membership, and then we'll get started. There, Mike's already a channel member, guys, with one of the most amazing Training Peaks graphs I've ever seen. Mike Terry, so good, bud. Cannot wait for you to race. You are going to slay. It's gonna be so. Mike, I can't wait for your race. I'm probably more excited than you because you have like the nerves of the race where I just get to just enjoy it. All right, what was the motivation for attempting the 72 miles? Figured I'd ask the question. That's definitely going to come up. So I think we can dive right into the episode and get started today. Once we get 5 concurrent viewers in here, I'll get out some memberships once I know Jacob's here. So this week, I want to talk about the Appalacian Trail, and I've actually heard from people that it's pronounced differently wherever you are. Some people say, I think Pennsylvania, they call it the Appleclay. I don't know. But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to call it the Appalachian Trail because that's what I've always called it. Now, for those of you that don't know, if you're on the West Coast or whatever, the Appalachian Trail is a trail that goes from Georgia up to Maine. And you could do it as one through hike, or you can do it as different segments. You can kind of do it however you want. And living on the East Coast, I've always heard about the Appalachian Trail, but I never thought like I would get on it. I never thought I would do it. And there's a couple of things that I kind of want to start this episode with as far as that. It is incredible over and over and over again as I now navigate my 40s, right? So I'm 42, I'll be 43 in March. The amount of things that I am doing, what I would consider like midlife, that throughout my entire life I thought would be absolutely ridiculous. It's incredible to me, these things coming to fruition. So I think that's the first and foremost. Number one, if you're in your 20s and 30s and doing this, like, I'm so envious of you. I wish I would have started earlier. But if you are my age and you are in your 40s, just know that like it's never too late to start something. Okay? It's never too late to dive in and start these adventures. That's first and foremost. I'm sorry, Avery. Guys, if you can excuse me 1 second, my 6-year-old just went number 2. No, how old is he? Well, my 4-year-old. My 6-year-old just came down to tell me that my 4-year-old just used number 2 and he needs my assistance. So if you don't come over here. So if you can just give me 1 second, I'll be right back. And let people know in the chat where I went. All right, so, and I lost the whole stream. We had 7 people in here. Everyone left. Guys, I'm a dad. Sometimes I got to wipe my kid's butt. I'm sorry. To the one person that's still here, is it still Chris? Thank you, Chris. Whoever it is. So back to what I was saying. So that's the first thing that really I took away from that was like, one, like I can't believe that I'm still doing things like this. And the second one is that the reason that we are doing any sort of fitness and the reason that we're staying fit isn't for races. And I said this to Jake probably like 20 miles in, and I'm like, this is what staying fit is all about. Because this is something that might have seemed planned, but it was just snap the fingers and let's do this. Let's just try something crazy and go for it. And Chris asked a question like, what motivation? The only motivation was like, why not? You know, we had been talking, Jake and I, because Jake was supposed to do Bigfoot. And when he made the very mature decision to focus on Moab and didn't need to jump into two 200s in 1 year, and his partner had some knee surgeries, like we said, okay, well, we'll still do something dope. We'll do something cool. And I think I was like in Montana getting ready to come home, and I was like, I'm coming home and we got to do something cool. And I shot out a couple ideas to him and he shot out a couple ideas to me. And I knew that like whatever he said, I was down. And he said, hey, why don't we try and do the New Jersey segment of the Appalacian Trail? And I said, okay, what are the stats? And he's like 72 miles, roughly 10, 11,000 feet, pretty technical terrain. It's probably going to take us a day. I was like, all right, you know, like I have some sort of fitness, maybe not the fitness that I wanted, but I knew that with a guy like him and the friendship that we've developed, I wasn't going to feel like, oh, I could just go do it with him. And he was like he knew my fitness and he knew the type of athlete I am and he knew my emotions. And so that's really how it happened. We were just sitting around talking on the chat or whatever. We were texting back and forth and we just decided to go do something. And that really is the best part of, you know, just having fitness and a base of fitness. Oh, Jake's here. Let me see if I can do this. Gift 5 now. Let's see if you guys get him. Okay. It gave it to people that aren't even. All right, Jacob. Hold on. Let me see if I can get 5 more. Hold on. Oh, all right. I got to wait till I can get 5 more. But I just gave out 5 gifted memberships in the chat. So I don't even think those people are in here. I don't know how that works, guys. But I'll try and get 5 more in a little bit. And Chris and Jacob, hopefully you'll get one. So what I really want to break down in the episode 2 is like the logistics if you want to make something like this happen. Because there's 2 types of people, right? There's me. That's very like, I need to have all of my ducks in a row. I need to know the logistics of the entire trip, like before I start. And then you have Jacob, who's like, I don't know, man, we'll figure it out. And I think that's good for me in a way because I wish that I was a little bit more like that. But I was hoping that I would rub off on him a little bit and give him some planning as well. And I guess that kind of happened, but it's not one of those things where you could just step up and do it, I guess. There was more logistics than we really thought. One, we had to plan how we were going to get to the start and then get home from the finish. So we decided that we were going to go southbound. And I think the reasons that we discussed for southbound were there was parking like right at the end if you went southbound to the Delaware Water Gap. We're at the New York, New Jersey border. It's kind of like in the middle of the trail. It's not at a trailhead. So we were thinking like when we get done with this effort are we going to want to hike another mile or two more to get to the car that we'd have to park about a mile or two away? Or do we just want to be there? Another thing we thought about was that every FKT attempt on this segment had been done southbound. So it had to be faster. So we're like, okay, there's that. And I think that was we discussed like some other real reasons why there was a couple bigger, steeper climbs early. Nothing crazy, but we figured we'd get those out of the way. Then next we had to figure out like what time we were going to start. And because we knew that we were going to have a day, and what we ended up deciding was that I was going to go to Jacobs, and we were going to drive one car to the Delaware Water Gap. We were going to park, and then we were going to try and Uber or Lyft the hour and a half or so to close to the New York, New Jersey border, and then get to that start however we could. And it kind of went smooth. It really did. We ended up like getting to the Delaware Water Gap, I want to say like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, full pack, which was packed with everything that we could possibly imagine. And then we got an Uber relatively quickly, and we were afraid because I've had Ubers on long drives, like just be like, nah, we ain't doing that. I'm not going that far. And we got one of those just guys that was just great. Like just loved being an Uber driver, chatted with us the whole time. And as we got closer, we realized like, cause we just put in a destination that was close to the start. We didn't know like the roads there. So as we got closer, we kind of said to him like, hey, we need to like change our endpoint. He's like, yeah, whatever. Cause we had explained to him what we were going to do. He's like, whatever I could do to help you guys out, I'm down. And we just ended up coming to like the dead end of a side street, and then got out of the car and we're like, all right, well, the start's kind of northeast a little bit through the woods. Let's just start walking. And we're just like bushwhacking through the woods, and finally like came up to like a trail that was a trail. We didn't know if it was the AT because we didn't see any blazes yet. We ended up walking about 2 miles. It's on Strava, I think 2 miles to the start. And like we're halfway there, and Jacob's like, I would have just started where we started. I wouldn't have went all this way. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that? But like, I think he's happy that we went there because it was nice to like start. They have it like spray painted on the rock on the trail right there. Like, this is New York, this is New Jersey. You are officially at the start. And we ended up high-fiving and clicking the go button at 11:23 in the morning. The pace, like we didn't know, like, should we go hard? What should we do? And we just said to ourselves, we're going to move. We're just going to move when we can, nice and easy, all day pace. Now, the over planner in me, I'd been on the internet for a couple days, and I think I Googled, because when you look up things on the AT, everything's about hiking. So I was like, I want to know like roughly how long it's going to take to like jog or run this thing. You know, like I just want to know. And there wasn't a lot of information on like fast packing it or trail runners doing it. So I think I ended up Googling like Appalacian Trail New Jersey in one day. And a news article came up from a guy, 40-year-old guy, that had done it last year in June for charity. And he came in at like 23 hours and a half, like just under 24 hours. So the creepy guy that I am, I was like, this guy definitely has an Instagram. So I looked it up. There he was. I shot him a DM just like, hey, thinking about doing the Appalachian Trail. Just like, so your article, is it cool if I ask you a question or two? And he got back to me immediately. He was like, dude, not only will I'll give you some information, I would love to come run with you guys for a little bit. He's like, I live right up there, and I will gladly run a little bit with you. Todd, what's up, man? Thanks for joining into the chat. And if you are listening to this on the live stream, guys, you might hear me talk to the chat here and there. I do live stream these episodes before I put them on the playback, before they get to Spotify, before they get to Apple Music and things like that. So if I randomly start talking to the chat, that's why. And hey, hop in on Thursday nights and you could join the live stream as well. So Alan ended up, meeting up with us about 4 miles in, and it was nice to have kind of a local guy. He lives right there. He was able to tell us some water spots. We had like a general idea of where we might be able to get water. And some general ideas of where we might be able to get food. We did have a water filter on us, and there are a lot of water sources in the Northeast in this area. A lot of them are kind of ponds. So like we now know in hindsight, we would have had to be really, really thirsty to probably drink from most of them. There was a couple of good ones, but they weren't like you're up in the mountains and, you know, you're just getting snow runoff wherever you could. It was more like I said, we would have had to been really, really thirsty. And we were very fortunate the entire trip to not have to really worry about water. And I'll discuss some of that in a minute. But he ran with us for like 15 miles, strong athlete coming back from injury. And it was just so nice to, I think now look back in hindsight, we did this for 24 hours and we met like 6 or 7 just amazing human beings. And then our trip was affected by another bunch of human beings that will be anonymous forever and we'll never, ever get to talk to or even know who they were because of things that they leave behind on the trail called trail magic, which we'll get to eventually in this episode. I think we made it 9 miles was our first like stop and our ability to get water. There was a farm and we were moving slow. I would say for that first 9 miles, we moved at 17 to 18 minutes per mile. I think that was what we were doing. And we got to this farm. They had a pump spigot out of a well. We were able to fill up bottles. I was carrying 1 liter at a time on me right now. I had Tailwind in both of those bottles. And Alan actually bought us some apple cider donuts, which were just so good. It was really, really good to have a nice donut. And then he ended up running with us for a little bit after that farm before he had to get home to his family. And then it was just on to Jacob and I. And Jake and I, we just have like such good conversation. We have a good time. He is one of the most like positive people you could ever be around, not only on the trail, but in life in general. And just genuinely just enjoys adventure. Like he would say things to me beforehand of like, oh, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care like pace. I just want to be in the woods. And he would be like humming and jumping around on rocks. It really was his playground. And I knew that we were just looking forward to just having an amazing, amazing day. And we continued and moved pretty good. And I want to say around 3 p.m., maybe 4:35, actually. Around 4:35 o'clock, we started thinking about, okay, we might need water again. And he said to me, like, I'm pretty sure that there's water maybe like 2 miles ahead. There'll be a town. But whenever you're coming into these road crossings, it's not like you come out on a road crossing and there's just a town there. Like, you're going to have to go off trail if you really wanted to stop and you really wanted to get stuff besides these like spigots. And we knew that we wanted to minimize that. And we ended up coming out of a section and we were on the road and it's like clockwork. I was like, I'm kind of low on water. He's like, yeah, I'm kind of low on water too. And we can kind of we got to figure out like what we're going to do. I have my filter, this, that, and the other thing. And on the chalkboard on the side of the road, right, we're about to enter the trail. It says trail magic under carport, help yourself. And we had heard like trail magic and people have trail names and things like that. But like, I didn't know that it was A, real, and B, that it literally pops out at you when you need it the most. Like people hike this trail so much. They just know where people are going to need water and they know where people are going to be hungry. And it's just, it's insane. So it was like under carport. So we had to like walk up this residence and then it was like a covered like driveway. And I'm like, all right. I mean, I guess if somebody comes out, I'll just be like, I just followed the chalkboard. Like, did you get pranked or are we good here? And this gentleman, this family, they had a refrigerator with cold Pepsi, Coke, water, some snacks and things like that. And he ended up coming outside and we ended up talking to him. His trail name was Bird Feeder. And we're walking down the trail later. I'm like, oh, Jacob, man, that Bird Feeder came through. And he's like, what Bird Feeder? I'm like, the guy, his trail name, Bird Feeder. And he's like, I thought he said Murphy. I'm like, no. He said Bird Feeder. And throughout this whole time, we're introducing ourselves as our names. And then people are just coming back with their trail names. I was like, hi, I'm Brad. And it's just weird introducing yourself as, hey, I'm Brad. And this guy's like, I'm Bird Feeder. And I'm like, I feel like I should have just had a better name for you than that, but sorry. And thank you very much, Bird Feeder. We ended up splitting a can of Coke, topping off our bottles. And we said to him, like, the same thing with food. We're like, do you know where we're going to get food? Because we knew that before dark, we wanted to try and get like real food in us, right? It's just a good reset before the night. We want to get some maybe warm food in us, just take our very heavy pack off just for a little bit, things like that. Like that's all we really need. And he was kind of like, dude, there's not a lot of food. There's one spot that you might be able to get food, but you're a pretty far distance from that. And he's like, okay, we'll put that in the back of our minds. And we just said, all right, we got to keep moving. And I think when it was like getting ready to get dark, like maybe like 6:30, 7 o'clock, I said to Jake, I'm like, hey, how far are we from that place where the guy said that we could possibly get dinner? There'll be some taverns, we can get a burger, something like that. And he's like, oh, let me check the app. He had it on his phone. I'm like, all right, I'll keep walking. Let me know. And he comes up and he's like, hey, man, I got some bad news. That place, it's pretty far away. I'm like, okay, what's pretty far away? And he told me, and I did some like quick math in my head, and I was like, dude, that's like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And he was like, yeah. And as somebody that loves being in control of a situation and can adapt to changes and curveballs, but I at least want to know about those curveballs, I'm sure he saw like a piece of my soul just leave my body. And I knew at that very moment, right before dark, that I was going to get hungry. I love to eat. I crush calories. I knew that I was going to get hungry. And I was trying my best to, I didn't curse. I didn't scream. He said I pouted a little bit. I think I just went a little quiet. We definitely had a half hour there or so where it was very, very quiet. And it had just been very joyous. We had come off that Coca-Cola that we drank at Bird Feeder's place, and we looked at our pace, and we started being like, we might be able to get done before sunrise. And the high of that Coca-Cola just wore off immediately. And I was ready for the night. I've learned to love the night, and this was going to be my second time with a full night ever in my life. And I knew there was no better guy to do it with than Jake, so I was excited about that. But now that little bit of excitement just went away, knowing that I was going to have to conserve the calories that I had, and conserving the calories I had was probably going to make me pretty hungry. I did some math at the end. I ended up finishing about 3,000 calories on the day, and I think Garmin said I burnt 7,000, but that's probably not that accurate because I did not wear a chest strap, so it didn't know my exact heart rate, but I know I only drank 3,000 calories for 24 hours. And that includes some other trail magic that we had. And we continued into the night. I think we were able to fill bottles on another trail magic, just a cooler there filled with water bottles, and just so incredible. But it's a shame that like you can't thank you. You just want to Venmo them or just be like, hey, here's $20 next time you restock it. Let me help you out. But I guess that's just the name of the game with trail magic. People just leave out water and say, help yourself. And sometimes there's snacks, and it really is good. But I think it got to about 9 o'clock, and we were entering like one of the state parks. If you saw my Instagram, I took a picture right before sunset, and we knew that we had about 2 miles to go until we could at least definitely fill water, which was a great thing. And there was a state park, so we knew there'd be bathrooms there, so we can actually get in and use the bathroom. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, there would also be a place that we could grab a bite to eat. It was 9:30, not too late. We come out of the trail, and we're in the state park. We see the building. Building's kind of dark. And I'm like, this doesn't seem like the kind of place where they leave the bathrooms open all night. So we got up there. It was dark. Bathroom's locked. Okay, dope. I'm like, maybe there's a vending machine or something that we can get something other than Tailwind and gel in our mouth. Nothing. We go out to the road. We look down the road. Darkness. We look down the road the other way. More darkness. And I'm like, well, is there at least a water spigot here? So we looked around. There's a water spigot. So we're like, all right, we'll fill some waters. As we're filling water, this truck comes barreling down from the other side of the road, like just like flying. I'm like, oh, it's weird. Crosses the road, flies up into the parking lot, and we kind of look at each other like, oh man, like, are we gonna get mugged here? Is he coming to see us? Is he just drive fast? What's the deal? And he like pulls up as we're filling water. He's like, you guys can't camp here. And we're like, who's camping? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, this is a state park. It closes at sunset. I'm like, we're just filling water, man. And he's like, you can't camp here. It's 9:30. I'm like, and then Jake was finally like, sir, I don't think you understand here. We're hiking from New York to Pennsylvania. We're going through the night. No one's stopping. We're just filling water. We're going to be gone in 5 minutes. And his tone changed like, wait, you guys are going to Pennsylvania tonight? And we're like, yeah, that's the plan. And his tone automatically changed. Like, he was like, sorry, I just like to protect the property. You know, I live up here at the state house and people take advantage of the property, this, that, and the other thing. He's like, sorry if I came off like a dick. And I'm like, no big deal. But I got to ask you, is there a place that you think that we can stop and get food? We are starving. And we have a full night ahead of us. And he's like, dude, he's like, you probably got about a 2-3 mile hike down the road to get to something that might be open. And I was like, once again, another piece of my soul dropped. And I'm like, thanks, man. And we knew, like I said, we didn't want to add 6 miles to the trip. So we're just like, we're going to deal. So the guy's like, all right, man, best of luck. Have a great hike. This and the other thing. We're filling up bottles. We're there for a couple more minutes, taking trash out, throw it away. And I hear the truck coming down again. And I said to Jake, he's coming back with food, dude. And Jake's like, I don't, we're like looking, it's dark. He's like, I don't think that's the same guy. And I'm like, I can hear the truck. Like, that's the same guy. Pulls up, gets out of the truck, and he's got a box. And he's like, do you guys eat fig bars? And it's the exact same fig bars I give my kids. I love them. Raspberry flavor. I was like, I will crush a fig bar. And I thought like he was going to give us a package of fig bars. He gives us the whole box. It had like 6 packs in it. And I was like, can I Venmo you? He's like, nah, man. He's like, what you guys are doing is awesome. Least I can do is give you a box of fig bars out of the closet. And I sat there and I ate, I think 3 packages of fig bars, 220 calories each. So I got like 600 calories and I felt good. I just, like I said, I just wanted to eat something that wasn't that wasn't Tailwind and wasn't a gel. And immediately my spirits were up. And I'm like, let's get back into the night. And you don't realize how long it's dark for until you have to hike and run and walk through the night. Like, it was 9 o'clock. It had already been dark for an hour or so. And I'm thinking to myself, man, the sun is not going to be out again until 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, we have 7 hours of darkness. And we walked. I walked. Jacob walked with me. Jacob killed all of the spider webs. We had a couple good moments, this, that, and the other thing. And I would say at about 1 o'clock in the morning, like I said, spirits were still good, but I was so tired. I didn't sleep well the night before we left. So I maybe slept an hour or so. And then I just, not like in canyons, I was not tired in the night. I had caffeine and stuff. This time I didn't have caffeine. This was like, I was straight up exhausted. I was sleepwalking. And I said to him, I'm like, dude, man, like, I am really, really tired. And he's like, you want to know what? I'm kind of tired too. He's like, and I'm doing Bigfoot. I'm probably going to take a trail nap. Like, should we practice a trail nap? Once again, something I thought I would never do, just lay down on the trail and just like try one of these 15-minute trail naps that people talk about. And I'm like, let's keep going a little bit more. We were about to come into that town that might have had a tavern. I'm like, maybe we'll catch like a convenience store, a 7-Eleven. Like, maybe if I can eat and I can get a can of Coke or something, maybe I can avoid this trail nap. And he's like, okay, cool. So it's 2:30 in the morning. We come out on the road and we look down the road. We see like a gas station, but it's black, pitch black. Look down the other way, nothing. And like right as we're about to be like, all right, we got to keep going, we hear like a voice from behind the car, like, you guys are out here pretty late. Like, in hindsight now, it's like what horror movies are made out of. And like, he just popped his head up and he's like, what are you guys doing? And my immediate like instance was like, hey, we're just hiking the AT. We're looking for food. You know, we can get food. Like, that's the first thing I'm saying. If you know, we get food. he's like, there's a 7-Eleven down the road. And he made it sound like we can get there. And I'm like, sweet, how far? And he's like, and whenever they go, it's a long way. And then he's like, it's a ways. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, do you have a house spigot? Like, can we fill water? And he's like, actually right there was like a business next door and they had a faucet outside. He's like, go over there, you can fill up your water. And as we're filling up water, he's talking to us and he's like telling us all these weird stories. It's really, really bizarre. But one thing led to another. And he's like, I got pizza in the fridge. Like, do you want me to heat you up pizza? And I'm like, nah, man, like that's your food. Like, I don't want to take food out of your fridge. Like, I don't want to take food off your table. And he's like, to be honest, I don't really eat a lot of pizza. I get it for free because I barter with the pizzeria guy boxes from my job. I usually just end up feeding them to the fox in the neighborhood. I'm like, if you're feeding them to wild animals, I will gladly take a slice of pizza. And you do not need to heat it up. Just bring it out and I will crush that. Jacob looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, you're going to eat a piece if he brings it out. He's like, I don't know. We thought he was going into the fridge and coming out. It'd been like 5 minutes. It's been like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, God. Like, I didn't want to leave and have this guy come out because now he's heating it up. Like, hey, guys, got your pizza? And we're gone. Like, I just couldn't do it. I was like, all right, let's wait 5 more minutes. If he shows up, he shows up. If not, we'll dip. And he came out with pizza, his wife's meatloaf that she made 2 days ago. He had to tell us it's 2 days old, but it's still good. And had a born-on date for all the food. And I crushed a slice of pizza. Jake crushed a slice of pizza. Once again, we're back in action and feeling good and said goodbye to Brian and we got back on the trail. And at this point, it was probably like 2:45, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, 2 more hours till sunrise. And at this time we were 37 miles in, I think. No, we were 47 miles in. We were 47 miles in. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I texted my wife because she wanted updates. And as soon as we got back on trail, it was just up. I think we went up like 800 feet, which we left after pizza, like feeling good, flying high. And then by the top of that climb, we both kind of looked at each other again. And I was like, Jake, I really think I need to do this trail nap thing. Like, I need to try it. Because I'm thinking at this point, like, I might have to bail. And he's like, all right, well, if you're going to bail, we might as well definitely try it. Like, I'm down. And it was so rocky. So, like, we didn't even know where we were going to be able to find a spot. And there was so many, like, frogs, bugs, spiders, centipedes, like, everything as we're walking through. You could just see it. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to lay down. I'm just going to get inundated. But I was so desperate to close my eyes. We kind of found, like, a clearing, like, a little area. And I'm like, let's set the watch for 15 minutes. Let's try it. And just like everybody says, I put my pack down. I laid on my back. I looked at the stars for a second. We turned our headlamps off and it got pitch black. And 15 minutes later, my alarm went off and I woke up. And it felt like I had slept for hours. Jake's like, I didn't fall asleep. I'm like, dude, I was out. Like, I could have been drooling on myself. It was glorious. Got up and, like, genuinely felt better. Maybe just had a little bit of a chill. It dropped down in the middle of the night. But I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. Let's keep on trucking. And for the next hour, we jogged, and I probably moved better than I had moved the entire trip, maybe. Maybe early with Alan, I moved a little bit better, but once again, we got it back down to 14, 15 minutes per mile for like an hour. And I'm like, spirits are high. Like, let's do this. But like after that hour, I looked down at my watch and I realized we'd only gone like 3 miles. We had just hit 50. And I think it's worth noting that going into this, I had expectations for finish times. But I also knew that I had like a cutoff for myself because I frankly, I hate being away from my family for too long. And I kind of told my wife I'd be away for dinner and bath and bed and all that. And then I told her I'll be back Tuesday for dinner. And just thinking about the time, I knew that if I continued at the pace that I was going to get to 72, I knew that we weren't going to finish until 2 in the afternoon. We then had a 2-hour trip back to Jacobs. So now we're talking 4. And then I have a 3-hour trip. Now we're talking 7. I would have missed dinner. And I also knew that Jake, who is just holding an amount of fitness right now that's just insane, I knew that I was slowing him down. He didn't care, but I knew that he wanted to fly a little bit. And I said to him, Jake, like, when the sun comes up here in a minute, I think I'm going to pull the plug. And in true friend fashion, he's like, nah, man, you got this. You're doing great. And I'm like, I explained to him just what I just said. And I explained to him, like, in the moment, I'm having a great time, but in the moment, I'm not having any fun because I'm just a little homesick. I got to be honest. You know, I kind of want to get home. And I know that if I bail and get an Uber back to the car, I can get back there, get a cup of coffee, call my wife, close my eyes for an hour. And then when you get back, I'll be rested. I can drive and you'll be done in under 24 hours. And like everybody will be happy. And gave me his blessing, said, hey, can you take my pack? And because he knew he wanted to hammer it. And I ended up leaving him at 52 miles at 6 o'clock in the morning or so, 6:30. And there was another state park, like a little bit off the 18. I'm like, I'm going to go down to that state park and I'm going to call an Uber. I got into this parking lot, pulled my phone out, no service whatsoever. And we had pretty much 5G service the entire trip. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how is this going to happen? Like, I can't even call him and be like, dude, I got no service. Like, Uber's not going to happen. So I was kind of stranded and I knew that I had to at least find service. So I got on Google Maps and I just started walking. And this was a gravel road too. Like, it wasn't even a paved road. And I soon started to realize that I was in the middle of nowhere, New Jersey. Like, the worst possible spot I could have quit and then needed technology was like that spot. And the people that I talked to when I was walking the road, I'd flag some cars down like, hey, do you know when I'll get any service? They kind of chuckled like, no. I was like, do you know when I'm going to get to a main road that I might be able to call an Uber? And they're like, to be honest, no. Some cars just flew right by when I tried to flag them down and that didn't work out. But I saw on the map there was a YMCA overnight day camp. And I knew it was 7 in the morning. I'm like, it's an overnight camp. There's going to be somebody working there. There's probably going to be internet there. I could at least make a call. So that was 5 miles away. And I was, like I said, I was not hurt. Like, I could run. I didn't want to go with Jacob the 22 miles. I could run, but now I got his pack. And he's a littler guy than me. So I couldn't even like put it over my pack. So I had it like slung over my shoulder. And now I'm like trying to jog like 5 miles. Took me, I want to say 90 minutes to get to this day camp. And I walk in and there's a lady behind the desk. I quickly explain to her what the hell I was doing there because I must have looked like a weirdo. And I'm like, I'm looking for a taxi cab or an Uber or an internet to make a phone call. And she's like, give me your phone. I'll log you into the internet. Log me into the internet. She's like, we have one taxi company in town, but she explained to me, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, dude. I'm like, can you call them and just see how much it's going to cost to get to the Delaware Water Gap? And she's like, of course, I'll call. She called and it was like $150 something to go 17, 18 miles. And I was like, I can't do it. Like, I don't have that money. And I'm like thinking to myself, you just bitched out and this is karma for bitching out early. Like, you are going to have to walk. And I had Jacob's keys. So even if he got back there before me, he couldn't come back and get me. So I'm like, I'm just going to have to keep walking towards the Delaware Water Gap. And hopefully I'll be able to hitchhike. Something is a better option than $150. She's like, okay, well, try Uber and Lyft. It's not a great look, but you might be able to do it. So I log on to Uber. She'd give me the Wi-Fi. And Uber's like, no cars, long wait expected. So I tried to book one and I let it like process for like 15 minutes. And like, on Uber, you can kind of see the cars like driving around the area. No, I zoomed out pretty far. There was no cars. So I'm saying my goodbye. Thank you. She let me fill up my water bottles in the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom and I came out and I saw a car on the Uber app. And I'm like, son of a bitch. And I ended up trying it and it connected immediately. And the guy was like 10 minutes away. The feeling. And I'm like, all right, well, he's still got to get here and then not reject the water gap. Because although it was 17 miles, it was like dirt roads and kind of country type roads. Like it was going to be like close to an hour drive, 45 minutes, I think it was. And this guy got there just like our first Uber driver, just like such a nice guy. Explained to me how lucky I was that he wasn't even supposed to be there, that he had driven somebody there and he was going back to civilization. And yeah, I ended up getting back to the car a little bit before Jacob, maybe like 30 minutes before him. After all of that, I only got back there 30 minutes and he completed it in just over 24 hours, ended up just booking that last section. He did 22 miles in like 3 hours and 30 minutes on insanely technical, difficult terrain, which just made me feel even worse for, like not cutting the cord or not cutting it sooner. And just like, I don't know, I kind of felt bad that he had to sit there with me, especially after seeing like just how fast we really, really could have went. But got back to his place, got home, and I was home by dinner. And it was just one of those experiences that I'll remember forever, between trail naps and Jacob almost running up on a porcupine. I never seen a porcupine in real life, just chilling on the trail with its quills just pointing up at us like, hey, we're gonna shock you. We're gonna get you. And yeah. And like I said and mentioned earlier in the episode, these are the things that make it great to be fit. Like these are the things that allow us to just do fun adventures. Like I can't wait for the next one. And in the moment I told him I wasn't having any fun, but I had fun just in that moment. I knew. And it wasn't like a DNF in a race. Like I didn't quit. I think if anything, I just had realistic expectations of what I wanted. And I didn't need to stay out there for 30 hours and change just to say I finished it, especially something local. I can get back out there if I wanted to. But what's really important to me at this stage of my life is dinners with my kids, and missing two of them just wasn't in the cards for like the planning that we had done. It's different like when you plan a race, you're going away with your wife. This was something that we planned like days before. And, it's a testament to my wife. Like I tell my wife on Wednesday, hey, on Monday, I'm just going to randomly go away for a couple of days and I'll be back just so I can go hiking the AT. Like, and her being like, Godspeed, God bless you, have a good time. Like, that's a good wife. So I think the lessons that I learned were, once again, manage expectations. And also, too, that you can vary nutrition based on intensity. There were so many times where I said to Jacob, like, I need to be eating this amount of calories and this amount of carbs. And he's like, dude, this isn't a race. Like, you don't need as many calories. Or I'd say to him, like, how much water do you have left? And he's like, dude, we're kind of walking. I haven't really drank that much water. Where I thought of it as a race mentality, where I think the next time I go out with Jake or anybody, I really need to separate adventure from racing. And because there's so much planning and things that go along with a race and that go along with an adventure. And of course, some of those overlap, but I would have been better overall if I would have been prepared for the fact that this was just an adventure. The competitive side of me still just wants to go and set fast times and bring the pace down and things like that, where if I would have been a little bit more like Jake and just enjoyed it. Like there was a time in the night where I said to him, like, how are you staying so positive? And he just explained how he has this amazing ability to just live in the moment and not worry about an hour, 2 hours, sunrise. And just like sitting in the back and just watching him like yell back and forth with the frogs and the birds. And Like, he really did. He had a great time, and that made it so much more fun for me. And I got through my second night. Now in hindsight, it was my second longest effort ever. At 20, I ended up going 21 hours. The only time I'd ever been on my feet moving like that for 21 hours was canyons. It was my second biggest vert day in one single section, or my third biggest vert day. Canyons was bigger, and the Grand Canyon was second, and this was third. And I came in, averaging like 45 miles a week into a really, really big technical effort. 72 miles was a big bite. And and I knew that it was unrealistic, which is like why I never had like low emotional spots, really. I didn't have those prolonged emotional spots, but if I would have been just a little bit more on point with expectations, there were times where times that I did worry about things I wouldn't have. And I would have been able to enjoy the entire trip, which instead of like enjoying 90% of it and then 10% being some low moments. But yeah, it was an amazing, amazing time. And I'm glad that I have the opportunity to say yes to things. And I hope that you have the opportunity just to say yes to things too. Like the Grand Canyon was just like a yes, like I'll do it. SP50, we planned that within days. And when you have those types of friends and that type of community and those type of people that are just always looking for something amazing to do and something fun to push you outside. Like I did so many things in a 24-hour period at 42 years old that I never thought that I would ever do. I never thought I'd come face to face with a porcupine's ass at 4:00 in the morning on a trail in the middle of New Jersey. I never thought I'd eat pizza at 3:00 in the morning out of a random stranger's refrigerator that I never met before. I never thought that I would enjoy a fig bar for dinner as much as I did, and yeah, it was awesome. It was really, really good. And it also piggybacked into a really good week of training that, I'll close the episode with this training because we are still focused on the Javelina 100 and going sub 24. So if you guys have any questions, if you are still here in the live chat, I see there's a couple people here, and you have any questions about the AT or just fitness in general, I will take those questions, and then I'll talk briefly about training and some things that are going on with that, and then what the next couple weeks look like. All right, you guys aren't talkative today. Maybe, I hope I'm still here, but. So as far as training is concerned, here's what's going on with training. This week I have 68 miles on top of that 55. My biggest training week ever is 80 miles. And I think my rolling 7-day is over that. So I had an 18 miler last week. So I'm pretty much at the biggest volume I've ever been at my entire life. And that's something to be really, really excited about. And as far as like post AT, the bottoms of my feet, very, very sore. The rocks, my bottoms of my feet hurt. No chafing, no blisters, legs, quads, ligaments, everything's good. So, I took the rest of Tuesday off. And then yesterday, which was Wednesday, I just ran 3 miles just as a systems check. Like I said, sore feet, everything good. Today I ran a little over 6.5 miles at like 9:30 pace. Feel really good. Feet are feeling much better. Gotta love an ice bath. Gotta love Epsom salt baths. Like good recovery, good food. And I think moving forward, I beat myself up so much with so much structure that I just need to like back off the structure and just run and just listen to my body. Because if I just had a coach, then I would my coach would probably want me to recover for a couple of days. And like, I don't know if I would have been like right back to running. Like, I think I would have overthought it. Like, oh, you did this, you did that. Like, yesterday I wanted to run, so I ran. I don't know how long I was going to run, but I just wanted to run. Same thing today. I just wanted to run. And I feel like that if I have 1 or 2 structured days a week where I have like a tempo day and I have a long run and a back-to-back, I think if I just focus on those 3 days and then the other days are just how much I want to run, I think there's a very, very good chance that my volume is going to go up. I'm going to have more fun with training. I'm going to become fitter. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still training in time, but I've just increased that time a lot. And I'm only structuring 3 days a week, where I used to plan out all 7. I think what's going to happen is I've also changed my rest days to Sundays off of Mondays. And I just wanted to change my rest day. Sundays just work better for me and the family. And I took a rest day Sunday leading into this. And I think after this now, I'm going to get to Sunday and then take another rest day. And I'm going to have one really long run. I'm going to have every single week, I'm going to do between 4 and 5 hours once a week. I'm going to back that up with a 2 to 2.5 hour. So that would be my long weekends. I could try and get 7 hours in there, between 6 and 7 hours there. I'm going to run tempo for 60 minutes total, 1 day a week. And whether that's in smaller blocks with rests or just one big 10K block, I'm going to have a tempo day. And then I really, really think that the rest of the week is just going to be like, for me, a run, like going out on a run, is anywhere that I feel comfortable and like don't need to plan it out or think, is about 90 minutes. It's about 10 miles. So I think that if I have 3 structured days and then I have 3 days where I'm running anywhere from 10 to 12 miles a day, I think I'm going to put myself in a really, really, really good position to do well at Javelina. I have a couple fall 10Ks that are local coming up. I got a 50 miler coming up on September 28th. I might go out to Saddles and Pace on October 5th. But yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going back to fun, like hanging with Jake, and there's just so many awesome takeaways when you do things that are really, really hard and you do things you'd never thought you'd do. And I'm glad I waited till Thursday today to unpack this episode, because I've just had such an awesome opportunity over Tuesday, Wednesday to just reflect on what that was like and the symbolism behind it, and the fact that it really had nothing to do with, the trail or how we were out there. It was more about overcoming things. It was about appreciating others. It was about humility. It was about sobriety for me and like what that allows me to do. There was just so many other things besides we're running 72 miles or 55 that I ended up running and walking. And those are the things that I continue to take away from this sport. If I could go back 2 years ago and tell Brad, hey, Brad, the things that are going to be the best part about this sport really have nothing to do with running and all about like the things you're going to find out about yourself and the appreciation that you're going to have for others. Like there's a big part of me that just wants to drive to the AT and just put a cooler down, like it was so awesome. Just a water bottle. Never thought it really was trail magic. Seeing just a water bottle that somebody left for you or anybody else that might have needed it. It was just really, really awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I love doing it, and I'm just in I'm in a good place, guys, and I hope you are too. If you have any other last minute questions, I know I just asked if you had any questions, but before I get out of here, I will ask. Chris just asked what shoes I was wearing. I wore the Speed Goats, and I'll just say briefly for anybody that saw the Instagram post, like I wasn't knocking Hoka, and I kind of knew that people were like, I know Hoka has a bad reputation for their shoe quality or whatever, and I don't know how the F Ultra doesn't, because their shoes are trash. I put that reel up there to showcase how treacherous the trail was, not how shitty the shoe was. Like, it had like it would have done that to 90% of the shoes I've ever worn. It was so jaggedy and rocky. Like, I'm almost surprised it didn't happen to my shoes earlier. Like, I'm still going to buy another pair of Speed Goats. Like, it wasn't like my feet felt great. Now, if I would have wore a shoe with a rock plate, the bottoms of my feet would be a lot better. But I've heard at that distance, you get to this place where like the rock plate is so stiff on your foot that it makes your foot hurt. So there's like a nice I never wore a shoe with a rock plate, so I'm speaking out my ass, but there's got to be a give and a take between the distance you can handle a carbon sole versus, a rock plate. I don't know. They were sore early, but I have like the La Sportiva Prodigios, which is another trail shoe I run in, and they're a lot simpler. They have a lot less cushion than the Hoka. Those, my feet would be mangled if I would have wore those. So I'm glad that I wore the Speed Goats. And I'm glad that I wore the Speed Goats. I really am. And I'm going to get another pair. I do not think that they are going to be the pair that I'm going to run Javelin 100 in. I think there's we'll talk about that. But yeah, still a very big fan of Hoka. Todd asks, would you do that run again? I'm gonna say no. And I'm trying to think of a reason for yes. Well, number one, I'm not a big fan of like repeating things. There's so much things to do that it's like, will I never be on the AT again? Yeah. But instead of like going back and doing Jersey just so I can say I did it, I think I'd be more likely to maybe go back to where I dropped and maybe continue it from there to say that I did the whole segment. But in no way, shape, or form do I need to get the whole segment done in one shot. It's the same as the Grand Canyon. Like, I said as soon as I finished the Grand Canyon, never again. And it's been half a year, and I still don't think I'll ever go to the Grand Canyon and do that again. Because it's a lot. It's a lot emotionally, it's a lot physically, and there's so many other things that I want to accomplish. Now, if I got to some point in my life and I'm like, I've done all of the cool things, maybe would I go back? Or like if my wife was like, Brad, I really want to do rim to rim the Grand Canyon. Yeah, I'd go back. I'd probably talk her out of this one. But I will say, and this is also a conversation I had with Jake, that this experience, I like to trail run. I do. And I like to, it's the same reason I don't want to do a 200 right now. Like, I want to do a 200 eventually, but I know that if I did a 200 with where I'm at in my ultra running career, I would probably end up just walking for days, if I'm being honest. And I don't really have the mental capacity or the want to just walk for days. And when you are doing something like this, you need to be all in. I got beat up at SP50 because I went into that with an ego. I wasn't mentally ready for it. I just said, I did canyons, I could do SP50, F it. And that's not true. Every single thing you do needs 100% of your attention. It needs to be like, you need to be all in on it. And I don't know if I could just go back. And I don't want, if I went back, I knew that I probably wouldn't go much faster. Like I said, Jake is so good and he runs that type of terrain and he's frankly just much fitter than me and more comfortable running downhills. I have glass ankles. I'm so cautious. Like, even when I was feeling good, I was still going relatively slow. And I didn't go 17, 18 minutes per mile because my legs hurt or I was tired or I didn't have enough calories. I was going that slow because that's how fast I could move. And when we could run, we ran. Like there was a segment where we had like a mile or so and we ran 11-minute miles, but when I look at it as a whole, I know that if I went back to do it again, like there wasn't something that I was like, oh man, if I make these simple changes, I could knock the shit out of that trail. Maybe I could be a little bit fitter and that would make me go a little faster, but not a lot. And I would rather go do something longer that I knew that I could run most of it, because I like to run, than something that's just, quote, hard that I need to just accomplish, and that's going to include a lot of slow walk. That's the reason why I don't think I'll be back to do it again. I do want to go back and get that last 22 miles in at some point. Whether it's the spring or doesn't need to be immediately, but I know exactly where I dropped. I know I can get an Uber there. I know exactly where I can park. And maybe when Jake goes back and tries for the FKT on it, I'll go back and just do that last 20 miles with him. But I'll be back on the AT. I just don't know. I don't think I'll ever. And I'm not even discouraging others from doing it. It's just I did it already. Been there, done that. I'm good. And I don't need to do it all in one segment to justify that. Jacob said Brad picks the next adventure. I don't even know if I can pick an adventure that would challenge you. I have ideas. But we both have a busy fall. Maybe we'll just call it like Madness Mondays, where every month we'll just pick a Monday in the month and we'll just go for it. I don't know. You guys have any other questions? Or I'm going to head upstairs and go say hello to my wife. If you guys don't follow Jacob on Instagram, Moondog98, you should. And if you're not on Instagram, follow him on Strava and you'll get an idea what I'm talking about. All right, that's it for me. Hope you guys have awesome training. If you're listening to this on the playback, please leave the podcast a review or a rating on Spotify or on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts. If you're listening to this now, if you can give the stream a thumbs up, that'd be awesome. I will leave it up for 24 hours, and then I'll make it for channel members only. And if you would like to become a member, if you go to the main page, you might have to be on desktop. You can just go to join. It really, really helps support the channel. And you get a fun little placard next to your name. And you're in my good graces. And then next week, I'll be able to gift 5 more. I gifted 5 already. I will gift 5 more next week. And thanks, Todd. Yeah, we dominated only because we had a good time. And I will end with saying this. I forgot by accident my SD on my GoPro. And I will say that it was nice not having my GoPro. It was nice not having to worry about documenting it. And I think that moving forward, I mean, obviously I love documenting things. I love making videos, but I'm not always going to make it all about that anymore, because it was just nice not to have it. It was nice that there are certain moments that I'll have to just journal and just remember and just relive through memory. And yeah, there was that piece as well. All right, guys. I appreciate you all. I'll catch you next time. I'll see you over on Instagram. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your weekend.